What's going on there, financially limited flufferonis? Lurks here, and today we're going to list 10 ways you can enjoy the furry fandom on a budget. You do not have to be a suspiciously wealthy furry to enjoy the fandom. You may look at all the expensive stuff out there, the fursuits, the art, and say, I'm never going to be able to enjoy the fandom because I don't have enough money. That is not the case. There are plenty of ways to be active and fully enjoy the fandom without throwing a bunch of money at it. Number 1, artwork. The fandom revolves around art, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Yeah, there's those artists out there that are charging thousands of dollars for their work, but there are a lot who aren't. You can even get some art for free. Some of it may look like my art, and you probably wouldn't want that even for free. But some of it is pretty good. There are a lot of up-and-coming artists who are willing to even give their stuff away or sell it really cheap just to get their name out there. Or they may not be confident enough in their art yet to charge what it's really worth. There's kind of a sweet spot you can find where an artist has gotten good, but they're not charging a lot yet. They're really not charging fair market value. You can get commissions for $10, $15, $20 that a more established artist might be charging hundreds for. If you look, you can find affordable art, or learn to draw yourself, which is easier said than done, I have certainly learned. Number 2, consider going to local fur meets and furry events rather than conventions. These are often free. Maybe if it happens at a club, there might be a $10 or $15 cover charge, but that's about it, considering a convention costs $60, $70, $80 for basic registration, and is probably further away. These local events are a great option. Usually the people there are really welcoming to new people, unless you live in New Mexico where nobody will talk to you if you haven't known them for 5 years, but that's my problem. They can be a nice, calm, low-key, low-stress way to introduce yourself to the fandom. And from there you can decide if you want to go to a convention or not. Other than transportation to get there, they're pretty much free. I highly recommend, if you have these in your area, to check them out. Okay, so you're going to a convention, you're going to make that leap. How do you get there? Are you going to drive your own car and pay for all the gas? Or are you going to fly and pay $400, $500, $600 to get to the convention? Consider finding some other people who are going and carpooling. One great idea I've heard of is actually renting a minivan. You can pack all the suits and stuff in the back where the third row is and still fit 5 people in there comfortably. Even if the rental ends up costing $400 plus gas, divided by 5, you only paid $100 for transportation, which is a lot better than the other options. Or consider taking public transportation. If you can take a train or a bus to the convention, it's going to be a lot more cost-effective than flying or driving solo. All right, number 4, dealer's den discipline. You're going to get to that convention, you're going to walk into that dealer's den, and you're going to want to buy everything. Well, probably not everything, but you're going to see a lot of expensive stuff that you're going to want to buy. Now, if you have the means, definitely support those dealers. Definitely support those community members who are trying to make a living selling their wares in the dealer's den and the artist alley. If you don't have the means, though, there may be other ways to find stuff. Now, if you're talking about one specific artist or one specific author whose work you want, you can take their business card or scan their QR code and go check out their website later. Sometimes stuff will go on sale or close out, and you can get it cheaper than they'd be selling it for in the dealer's den. And if it's a more generic thing you're looking at, you may be able to find an equivalent much cheaper online. I was in the dealer's den with my buddy at Anthro Weekend, Utah, and I was looking at this LED paw print neon light thing, and it was super cool. It was $175. And my friend was like, dude, and did a 2-second Google search and found a bunch of equivalent ones for between like $25 and $65 online. So do your research and make sure you have to pay that much money for what you want, because you may not have to. And if you're prone to impulse buying, you might just want to stay out of the dealer's den altogether. Not the worst idea in the world to just not be tempted. Number 5, don't be afraid to buy the lower tier registration. Con registration tiers are the perfect example of diminishing returns. That $700 super ultra mega sponsor registration is not going to give you a 10 times better con experience than the $70 basic registration. A lot of what you get with the higher tiers are shorter lines, better seating for major events. You might get a dinner or a brunch and you get a bunch of swag, which, let me be perfectly honest, is often cheap junk that you're never going to use. There are some exceptions out there. Anthro Weekend Utah, oh my god, they give you great stuff. But a lot of cons give you just sort of cheap plasticky trinkets. You can have just as good a time at a convention with the basic tier registration, and it's going to be a lot cheaper. A lot of the cost of those higher tiers is just basically generosity. You're just saying, hey, I love the con so much, I have the money, here you go, I'm going to give you a bunch extra. Don't feel obligated to do that or think your experience is going to be lessened by buying the basic reg. Fursuits. First of all, you don't have to have a fursuit to enjoy the fandom. Some people will never get fursuits. If you're claustrophobic, if you overheat easily or sweat a huge amount, if you have limited vision, you may not even want a fursuit, but a lot of people are going to. And if you do, there's some tips and tricks. They are very expensive to get new custom-made fursuits. Just like with artists, I would look at some up-and-coming fursuit makers who maybe aren't charging up to the level of their skill yet. There are people out there who might be on their 5th or 6th or 7th suit and have a lot of potential as a suit maker or making a good quality product, but just aren't charging the big money yet. If you can find them, that's awesome. And if you're willing to get a suit that's not your own character and make it your own character, thedealersden.com is your friend. You can find used suits on there, often for really reasonable prices. Fursuits don't hold their value very well. You're buying something custom made for somebody else in their size, of their character. You don't know how it's been treated. You don't know how much sweat and other bodily icky stuff has gotten into it. It's a little bit of a risk. Now, if you go on there, some people are going to be charging outrageous prices and expecting to get that. They're going to think they're going to get back 80% of what they bought their fursuit for new. And you'll just see those suits lingering on there for months and months and months and months, and the prices will either come down eventually or they'll just give up and not sell the suit. But there are a lot of really reasonably priced suits on there that you can get into. Even full Digigrade suits. You all know Elwood, right? I bought that suit on the dealer's den for a fraction, I think about 40% of what it would have cost new, and it was brand new. Somebody bought the suit as a pre-made, they wore it one time, took some pictures, threw it in a box in the closet, let it sit there for 3 years and never wore it again. I was able to take advantage of their desire to sell the suit and get it for a really good price. And you can do that too. Another less expensive option you might consider if you're looking for a brand new suit is Lemon Brat. They are a rarity in the fandom. They're one of the big established fursuit makers who have kept their prices attainable the whole time. Usually fursuit makers get more and more expensive. Lemon Brat has kind of kept it reasonable to where a lot of people are able to still afford their suits. They'll usually have some fairly inexpensive partial pre-made at conventions. If you go custom, you're going to pay a little bit more, but it's still going to be reasonable, and you'll get a little bit higher quality. But they have a lot of options for people looking to get into their first fursuit. Okay, number 7. Like I said, you don't have to have a fursuit to enjoy the fandom. You can get ears, you can get paws, you can get tails, you can get furry clothing, you can get furry accessories, you can get all kinds of furry stuff that's not a fursuit and that won't break the bank like a fursuit will. And you can pick up stuff, bits and pieces here and there, and build up something over time. Number 8, don't pay the outrageous prices for food and alcohol at FurryCon hotels. Go to the grocery store as soon as you get there, buy your food, buy your alcohol, buy the stuff you need, eat and drink in your room or at room parties. Sometimes room parties will even have an open bar where you can pitch in 10 or 15 bucks or whatever you have, and you can drink as much as you want. One drink at a con hotel bar is going to be probably $8 to $10, not including tip. Food, 20 to 30 bucks a plate. It is outrageous, and if you don't have a whole lot of money, there's no reason you should feel like you have to pay that. Get some basic stuff and eat it in your room. You can even get pizza or takeout or other options like that, far cheaper than what you're going to pay at the restaurant and the bar. And if you want to, you can treat yourself to one meal at the restaurant or one night out at the bar if you got the money, but if you don't do that all 4 nights you're there, you're going to save a bunch. Believe me, I know all about this. I have learned it the hard way. I once racked up a $100 tab between food and drinks at the Red Bar at MFF. You don't want to do that. Number 9, take advantage of things like VR chat and Furrality. There are plenty of virtual furry events and free, unorganized virtual furry activities. You can just pop into VR chat and walk around as your fursona. Custom avatars can be kind of expensive, but if you have the patience and you have a decent computer to work with, you can usually texture them and color them yourself. VR is attainable to almost everybody. You don't have to have a headset. VR chat works pretty well with just a regular PC or laptop or whatever you got. And heck, Furality even interacts with real-life FurCons sometimes. They'll have a big screen up and the Furality people will be there and they got cameras going and you can wave to them, and it's kind of cool. Don't feel like your furry experience has to be limited to live events. There's plenty of fun to be had online. And the 10th and final thing is another furry convention-related thing. You are not going to be able to have your own room at a convention. You're not going to be able to have one roommate at a convention. If you're on a tight budget, you're going to have to maximize your roommates. Now, I do not recommend going over the allowed maximum number of people in the room. That is just going to be a recipe for a mess. Plus, if the hotel finds out, the person whose credit card is on the room could potentially end up getting fined for having too many people in there and violating the terms of service. So don't do that. But if the room allows 4 people and you're financially limited, you probably want to have 4 people in there, preferably people you know and trust. Even then, you're going to have to be careful with that. You're going to have to mitigate trash and you're going to have to mitigate bath towels. Those are the 2 biggest things that cause problems. People like to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning at cons. Housekeeping knocks on the door at 8 a.m. and you're like, oh, go away. And you don't get housekeeping. Then the trash starts piling up, especially if you're drinking beverages or you got pizza and takeout stuff. It is going to pile up really quick with 4 people. The other issue is bath towels. Especially if you have fursuiters in the room with you, they're going to disappear really quick. If they're taking multiple showers a day and using a towel every time, all the towels are going to be wet, they're going to be on the floor, they're going to be dirty, they're going to be gross within like a day and a half. So you really are going to have to figure out how to get stuff from housekeeping, put your trash out on the hallway. When housekeeping does knock on the door, get your lazy butt out of bed and go at least ask for some fresh towels and give them the old ones. Furry convention rooms are typically like $170 to $220 a night. And if you split that between 4 people, it's much more likely you're going to have the resources to actually go to a convention. All right, there it was. If you stayed all the way to the end, thank you very much. And of course, we have to give a big shout out to those super generous people who give us some of their hard-earned money every month to help fund this channel. Our patrons. We are forever indebted to you for your generosity. All right, thank you so much for stopping by. We are going to be out at Megaplex next week, so hope to see you there. Fursuiting in scorching Florida sun and humidity. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, just kidding. It's always a great time and they have the AC cranked in there. All right, Fluffsicles, until next time, you stay safe and you stay fuzzy.